please complete a blue speaker card and give it to the officer in the back of the room. Items that are not on the agenda are heard at the end of the voting meeting. Glendale has 7 city council members. Mayor Jerry Wires, Vice Mayor Joyce Clark of the Yucca District, Councilmember Jamie Aldama of the Ocotillo District, Councilmember Ian Hugh of the Cactus District, Councilmember Bart Turner of the Beryl District, Councilmember Ray Mauner of the Saguaro District, and Councilmember Lauren Tolmachoff of the Cholla District. This meeting is streaming live on Glendale's Facebook and YouTube pages and the city's cable television station, Glendale Channel 11. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening. Welcome to Glendale City Council meeting of May 23rd, 2023. This meeting is called to order. Roll call. All members appear to be here, so if you would take note, we don't have to make a roll call. The next items on our agenda are the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation was going to be done by Father John Eric of the St. Thomas More Church in Glendale. He's not here. I don't see him. So with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Melner if you would go ahead and give an invocation. Gentlemen, if you're wearing hats, if it's appropriate, I'd ask that you'd remove them. If everyone would please stand for the invocation and then remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Melner.
Our Father in heaven, as we come before thee at the commencement of this Glendale City Council, we are grateful for this great country in which we live, where we can meet and make decisions as we'll be doing this evening. We're grateful unto thee for all that we have been given in this good life, for the good people of this city, and for all the good works that they perform. We ask thy guidance and direction this night, that as we decide the issues of the city, that will be guided and directed, that will be inspired to do that which is most appropriate. We pray for those who are less fortunate in our city, who have special needs. Help us that we might fulfill some of those needs and watch over and protect them. And we pray these things in thy name. Amen.
Amen. Everyone, please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Nice brew. Okay, next on our agenda is the approval of minutes for the consideration of the May 9, 2023 voting meeting. Council members, do you have any corrections or additions to those minutes? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the May 9, 2023 meeting minutes?
Yes, Mayor. I move we approve the minutes of the May 9th, 2023 voting meeting.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Hugh, a second from the Vice Mayor to approve the minutes. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Appears the ayes have it, do have it. That motion carries. Moving on to proclamations and awards. We're proclaiming May 21st through 27th as Public Works Week here in Glendale. I'm going to come down to the podium and I'm going to ask a Director of Field Operations, Michael Carr, and some of the employees responsible for Public Works operations from citywide to come up front. I'll meet you down there. Ain't that bad. All right, we got everybody here? Okay, so proclamation, City of Glendale, whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainability, resilient communities, and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of people of the City of Glendale. Whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of Public Works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public's interest for citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of Glendale to gain knowledge and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public work programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2023 marks the 63rd annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association, now therefore I, Jerry P. Wires, Mayor of the City of Glendale, Arizona, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim May 21 through 27, 2023 as Public Works Week. Be it further resolved, I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. That was signed by our clerk and myself. And who gets this? That'd be you. Okay. Say something.
I think you said quite a bit. I want to thank yourself and council for recognizing our Public Works employees, and I want to thank our Public Works employees for all the hard work they do throughout the year, keeping our city running, and we just appreciate you guys. So thank you.
Why don't we all step up there for a picture? How about it? Bring those down. Probably not. All right, thanks, guys. Okay, we're going to move on to appointees to boards, commissions, and other bodies. We have any speaker cards for any?
No, sir.
No? Okay, Councilmember Turner, you have any nominations to offer for boards, commissions, and other bodies?
Mayor, I move that we appoint Sharon Nesbitt from the Yucca District to the Citizens Transportation Oversight Commission for a term expiring 1/31/2025, and further that we appoint Shri Kanth Grandi from the Yucca District to a term expiring 1/31/2024 to the Citizens Utility Advisory Commission, and Robert Portillo of the Yucca District to the Commission on Diverse Cultures for a term expiring 1/31/2024, and Teresa Fowler of the Yucca District to the Library Advisory Board for a term expiring 1/31/2024, and Tom Traw of the Yucca District to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission to a term expiring 1/31/2024. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it sounded like we had a second from Mr. Melner. Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Turner, second from Councilmember Melner. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Appears the ayes have it, do have it, that motion carries. Any of those folks whose names were just read, are you here? Come on up. How are you?
Good, sir.
Good. Come on back here. How are you? Good to see you. Just the two of you? Okay. So if you would, hold up your right hand, say, I state your name. I
I, Srikant Grandi,
do solemnly swear,
do solemnly swear
I need you to say that,
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the constitutional laws
of the state of Arizona,
of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same.
to the same,
I will defend them against all enemies,
and I will defend them against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully
and then I faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of my office
of my office
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God. Congratulations. All right, Adam. Okay, moving on to our consent agenda. Items 4 through 17, items on the consent agenda are of routine nature. They've been previously studied by the city council at a workshop session. Now, they are intended to be acted upon in one motion by this council. Do we have any speaker cards for any of the consent agenda items?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have any? I just asked you that. Can I get a motion to approve consent agenda items 4 through 17?
Mayor,
Go ahead, Mr. Milner.
I move that we approve consent agenda items 4 through 17.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Milner, a second from the Vice Mayor to approve the consent agenda items 4 through 17. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Here's the ayes have it, do have it, that motion carries. Ms. Bauer, would you read consent resolution items 18 and 19 by number and title, please?
Item 18, resolution number R23-35, a resolution of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, adjusting solid waste fees pursuant to Glendale City Code and setting forth effective dates. Item 19, resolution number R23-36, a resolution of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, authorizing and directing the city's participation in the U.S. General Services Administration purchasing program for the purpose of making cooperative purchases. That concludes the consent resolutions.
Any speaker cards?
No, sir.
Is there a motion to approve items 18 and 19 on consent resolutions agenda? Anybody?
Mayor,
Go
I
ahead.
move we approve items 18 and 19 on the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion from the Vice Mayor, a second from Councilmember Hugh, to approve items 18 and 19 on the consent agenda resolutions. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Here's the ayes have it, do have it, that motion also carries. Moving on to bids and contracts, Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item 20 for us, please?
Authorization to enter into a professional services agreement with CP Manufacturing LLC for parts, service, and maintenance. There are no speaker cards.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve item 20?
Motion to approve item 20.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Aldama, a second from Councilmember Hugh to approve. Let's do this again. Seconded by Councilmember Hugh to approve the recommended action. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Melner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Mayor, I wish to explain my vote.
Go ahead.
As is my habit and practice. This is a 5-year contract, as are all the other items under bids and contracts, and it provides no continuity of council oversight, so I vote nay.
Vice Mayor Clark votes no. Chair votes aye. That motion does carry. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item 21 for us, please?
Authorization to enter into a software services agreement with Nighthawk Cloud, Inc. for full-service analytics software for the Glendale Police Department. There are no speaker cards.
No speaker cards. Any questions from the council? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve item 21?
I move we authorize the city manager to enter into the described software services agreement with Nighthawk.Cloud, Inc.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Turner, second from Councilmember Tomachoff to approve recommended action. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Melner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Nay.
Chair votes aye. That motion carries. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item 22?
Award of request for proposal 23-29 and authorization to enter into an agreement with Agilent Technologies, Inc. for a gas chromatograph mass spectrometer with fully integrated auto sampler. There are no speaker cards.
Canuterbell.
I'd like to hear you say that 3 times real fast. Any questions from the council? Hearing none, and we had no speaker cards. I think you did say that.
That is correct.
Very good. Can I get a motion to approve item 22?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
I move that we approve item 22.
And what is that? I want to hear you say it.
What's that?
Just kidding.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember
I chose not to.
Melner that doesn't want to say it, and second from Vice Mayor to approve the recommended action. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Melner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Nay.
Chair votes aye. I still don't know how you said that. I can't say that. Mass spectrometer? Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item 23 for us?
Award of invitation for bid 23-07 and authorization to enter into an agreement with Core and Main LP for waterworks supplies. There are no speaker cards.
Any questions from our council? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve item 23?
Yes, Mayor, I move we award invitation for bid 2307 and enter into the agreement with Core and Main LP.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Tomachoff, second from Councilmember Hugh to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Melner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Nay.
Chair votes aye. That motion also carries. Ms. Bauer, can you introduce ordinance, item 24, ordinance 023-15?
Ordinance number O23-15, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, authorizing the abandonment of certain rights-of-way and easements in the City of Glendale and directing the city clerk to record a certified copy of the ordinance.
Mayor, members of the council, here to provide staff report this evening is Glendale Principal Engineer Jamie Chapin.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Good evening, Mayor and Council. With this request, we'll be authorizing the abandonment of public right-of-way for roadway purposes at 4902 West Glen Drive and the abandonment of a portion of water and sewer easement at 9345 West Glendale Avenue. Both of these abandonments are associated with current developments in the city. There are two 5-foot strips of excess right-of-way adjacent to the Mercy Housing Senior Living Project on Glen Drive, and the other abandonment is associated with relocating water services at the Brewster's Real Ice Cream at Westgate. Staff is recommending approval of the abandonments so that the adjacent developments may incorporate these areas into their developments. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none, can I get a motion on item 24, ordinance number 023-15?
Yes, motion to approve ordinance number 023-15.
Second.
Have a motion from Councilmember Aldama, second from Councilmember Tomachoff to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Melner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion carries unanimous. Moving on to resolutions. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item 25, resolution R23-37?
Resolution number R23-37, a resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Glendale, Arizona, ordering and calling a special election to be held on November 7th, 2023, in and for the city of Glendale, Arizona, to submit to the qualified electors thereof questions of selling and issuing bonds payable from secondary ad valorem property taxes.
Mayor, members of the council, here to provide staff report this evening is Glendale's Deputy City Manager Brent Stoddard.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item is a resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held on November 7th, 2023 for additional general obligation bond voter authorization. The bond committee that was formed and appointed by the council assessed the need for additional voter authorization and recommended the ballot language that is attached as Exhibit A to the resolution. The committee's recommendations were discussed by the council at a workshop on May 9th, where the council instructed staff to bring this resolution forward to officially refer the question to the ballot. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. We also have our bond counsel, Bill DeHaan, here tonight as well, if there's any questions for him.
Questions? Hearing none, is there a motion on item 25, resolution R23-37?
Yes, Mayor. I move we approve item 25, resolution R23-37.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Hugh, a second from the Vice Mayor to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
I'll explain my vote.
Go ahead.
Yeah, a successful bond election from the city to our citizens a successful one would pay for critical and basic services that the city is responsible for providing for our citizens. Very critical service to police and fire, and streets and transportation, and for that I vote aye. Thank you.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Milner, how do you vote?
I'd like to explain my vote.
Go ahead.
First, I want to thank staff and members of our bond committee for all the work they put in to bring this forward. I do think it's very important that our residents understand that typically when you have a bond go out, that it means an increase in taxes. However, I want to assure the public that consistent with our prior practice, that when we issue new bonds, it will be only in relationship to paying off other bonds, so that your taxes do not increase, unless, of course, there's significant increases in your particular property value because of improvements, et cetera. But otherwise, taxes should remain the same. And with that, I vote aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you
I'd
vote?
like to explain my vote, Mayor.
Go ahead.
So the bond committee was established in October of last year, 2022, and they've only met twice, on April 18th and May 16th. I've listened to both of the meetings. The first meeting was on April 18th, where the survey results were introduced. There was a survey done on residents, on likely voters in an off-cycle election, and the results were presented to the bond committee, and then the committee was asked to vote on the staff recommendation for which bonds to pursue, as well as ballot language, and then send the recommendation to council. The May 16th meeting included a 20-minute presentation on the Streets GO Bond CIP, and no mention of public safety, of the reason or the need, and I don't disagree that public safety has needs, but there was no mention of the need or the reason for the public safety bonds. The committee was then presented a handout on how to form a political action committee that was distributed by a city staff member. I think it's important also to mention that our Citizens Transportation Oversight Commission met in January and then did not have a quorum, and they met again in May. My commission member told me that they have not been advised that there's a lack of authority to fund the GO Bond CIP, and that the 24-25 payment management plan is not fully funded. There's a shortfall of approximately $13 million, not accounting for inflation. Now, while I believe it's important, the bond election is important, I believe that we're not prepared for it. The bond committee, Phoenix had 34 meetings with their bond committee, and their committee made a recommendation a year ahead in November of 2022 for a November 2023 election. I just feel like we're unprepared. There's been no public input, or even our Transportation Oversight Commission hasn't been informed on what the actual situation is with our transportation funding. I believe we could stay on course with our streets CIP with general fund money, but there's been no consensus to pursue that and fill the gap with fund balance. I think we could do that and properly plan and execute a successful bond election next year. That's not what the will of the council is to do, but I personally cannot vote yes on a process and timeline that I feel puts such an important vote in peril, and I vote no.
Councilmember Tomachoff votes no. Councilmember Turner.
I'd like to explain my vote.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just a couple of so years ago, we went to the voters and asked for them to raise council salaries, and their answer was a resounding no. A year ago, we went to the voters and asked them to approve bonds in 4 crucial areas. Again, their answer was no. And now, really just 4 months away from early ballots being mailed out, we're trying to rush through another bond election. One in an area that's crucial, that's being transportation, because as was mentioned, we have virtually no borrowing capacity left in transportation. The other area, public safety, while very important to the work we do, we have at least 5 years of, according to the presentation, of capacity left in our 10-year plan. So the immediacy of it doesn't seem to be pressing to me, and yet we're virtually out of Parks and Recreation money as well, but that's not even being considered to put before the voters. I think that we're involved deep in a poorly organized rush to the ballot that I fear will bring us the same results as the last 2 times we went. I think we need to hold off a year, put some real effort into reviewing what we want to take to the voters and organizing a committee that's willing and capable of building the public support that we absolutely need to get these things done. We need to be able to make our case to the voters. It's clear they don't just vote yes on anything we throw out there, and I don't think we have the time to do it. With that, I vote no.
Councilmember Turner votes no. Vice Mayor?
Aye.
Vice Mayor votes aye. Chair, I shouldn't have to explain my vote, but I will. Transportation's too important. This council asked transportation over the last 5 or 6 years to expedite our roads to get things fixed and patched and up to a quality of road that people would be happy with, and I think transportation's done a good job on that. We spent a lot of money, and we're running out of money, and I don't want to get into a situation where we can't fix roads and do the things that our citizens expect us to do. Public safety, I'm never going to vote against public safety. I'm not going to vote to defund our police or to curtail our fires. So I do support this, and I think that timing is important, but I would also say it's important for the council to understand how critical it is for our city, not to be fighting us on this, but to join with this to get this arranged and taken care of. I do vote aye. That motion does pass. Moving on to item 26, Ms. Bauer.
Approval of Schedule E under the Professional Services Agreement with Interim Public Management, LLC.
Mayor, members of the council, here to provide staff report is Director of Human Services and Risk Management, Jim Brown.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for council to approve Schedule E of Professional Services Agreement C-19-0599 between the City of Glendale and Interim Public Management, LLC, known as IPM, in the amount not to exceed $75,000. IPM will provide interim professional staffing for the municipal court administrator until the position can be filled through a normal recruitment process and the transition of duties has occurred. And I'd be happy to answer questions on this.
Questions? Hearing none.
Thank you.
Okay, I need a motion.
I move we approve Schedule E amendment to the Interim Public Management LLC contract.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve recommended action. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Melner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomchop, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That motion carries unanimous. Council comments and suggestions. Councilmember Aldama.
Yes, thank you. Want to be a little clearer on this bond election. I talked about critical services, but I didn't talk exactly what we have on the ballot question. Construct for principal amount of $82 million for transportation. Bulleted here is construction and reconstruction of street and intersection safety improvements. These are improvements to intersections that have data that supports. There have been many accidents and causing death and injury to our citizens and to our visitors. So this bond, if successful, will help and aid that. Constructing and reconstruction major and local streets. These are the very same streets that our citizens have asked us to continue to pave, repave, and repair streets so they're safe for their commute to work and to schools and to grocery stores. Highways and bridges within the city, any of that infrastructure we have so it doesn't fail. Furthermore, the other critical services that this provides is planning, acquiring, designing, construction, modernizing, improving fire stations. I had a councilmember item of interest maybe 6 years ago, and we were able to remodel a couple fire stations. That wasn't enough. Our firefighters deserve better and deserve more, and this will help remodel those fire stations and police stations. It also helps provide fire training in academies for a police department. And it also provides additional gear for safety for our firefighters. We just talked about covering presumptive cancer for our firefighters. This will aid in that as well. And while I'm on that topic, I want to thank Councilmember Tomachov for bringing up the presumptive cancer item to the workshop maybe a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately, not all the council members here supported it. Councilmember Turner, Councilmember Tomachoff, and I did support it. Eventually, it's what we've been talking about, giving coverage to our firefighters who we know need that support for their families. It was finally put through by the city manager as an administrative policy, and I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's the best thing to do. But I want to thank Councilmember Tomachoff for bringing that up and having a good conversation. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Hugh.
Nothing, Mayor.
Councilmember Milner.
I wasn't planning to say anything, but I think I will because of some things that were just said. I truly support what happened with the last week. A city manager made a administrative agreement with the fire union to cover employee cancer for public safety employees. And I was against the proposal and that was presented because I didn't think it covered it. I don't think it did what it needed to do. But what happened did. And so the right thing happened, and I just want to make it clear that I don't necessarily agree with the comments that were made. That this council does support that, the entire council does, and I think that needs to be made public. Thank you.
Councilmember Tomachoff.
Thank you, Mayor. There was no proposal. There was an ask for a conversation and to be educated on the state legislation, and there was an ask to have a policy discussion, whether that policy included an administrative policy, state legislation, whatever kind of conversation would have been had. There was no proposal. The proposal was, let's have a discussion. That was denied. The important thing is, the right thing happened, and I'm happy the right thing happened, and it doesn't really matter who gets credit for it. What matters is that our firefighters know that the city's going to have their back no matter what happens. I'd like to move on quickly to the bond election. The issue is, and this is how important transportation is, and I spend a lot of time and energy on transportation for this city. We're spending $55.5 million on a city hall cash. The city hall remodel is going to be 90+ million, but $55.5 million of it is fund balance money. And another $5.8 million has been directed towards sports fields at a park, which is important, but not as important as keeping up with our pavement management plan and our transportation CIP. And I've asked to use general fund money to continue on with the streets project and go out for bond for parks. We have $4.5 million, I think, left in authority for our parks. We need more bond authority than we're even asking for or are going to be asking for in this election, and going to the voters a second time. And saying that postponing or thinking that it's in the best interest of everyone to postpone the election until next year and have the right amount of time, the right amount of public input, the right amount of time to educate the public so they understand what they're voting for is not an effort to defund the police, and I find that very offensive that was even said. That is not, nobody's saying not to do this. I'm saying I don't think we have time to do this right. Even our own transportation commissioners have not been educated on where we are with our transportation plan. We haven't even had an opportunity to educate them. So I absolutely believe that the bonds need to be done, but I think this is a very, very challenging timeline, and I worry, and I've voiced my opinion early on, that I do not think we're going to be successful. And it's too important. Even if the bonds pass, and we're in November, and we go out for bond, the earliest the city is going to have the money is spring, almost at the end of the fiscal year. So regardless, our transportation plan is lacking the $13 million just to keep up with the pavement management plan, regardless of the outcome of the election. And I think we should support that with general fund money, and our priority should be to continue on with that, because delaying in that is going to end up costing taxpayers more on the back end. More important than remodeling a building, more important than sports fields in a park, we really need to keep that program on track. And even if the bonds pass, we're going to be lapsed behind because we don't have the money at this moment to continue on with the pavement management plan. So I just want to make sure people understand what my position is that I don't support the bonds. I do support the bonds, but I don't support the timeline and the delay of 6 months before the bond committee even had a chance to meet and be educated, and we're already, after 2 meetings, at the first meeting, they were asked to vote. At the very first meeting, they were asked to support this, which I object to also. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Turner.
Explain my vote. No, this is council comments. It's hard to keep track sometimes without a script, and apparently it's hard sometimes even with a script. Now, I just want to respond, of course, to the thinly veiled insult that perhaps those of us that voted against holding the bond election in this coming November were somehow in favor of defunding police. It just shows the level of foolishness, I guess, that some people have when they serve up here. You know, we've all supported public safety, police and fire, and none of us have been in favor of defunding police. We've all been on the record supporting our police. And what we do is we put at risk future bond funding for all of our programs if we rush to the ballot with this one and it fails again too. So we understand, based on what staff presented to us, we still have 5 years of capacity in public safety bond funding. So, you know, we should deal with more immediate problems that are also important to our residents. Public safety, we're using cash, most of which has come to us from one-time sources, influx of cash. We're using that to do ball fields and such out at Heroes Park. We should be using bond money over a long period of time to pay that off and preserve our cash. And that's not even Parks and Rec isn't even being considered to go before the voters for bonds, and it's virtually broke. Our transportation fund is, in essence, broke. We brag a lot about how we've rescued the city from bankruptcy, but if you look at a few of our bond funds, they're basically bankrupt. We should deal with those issues, and we should do it in a timely manner that allows us to present the case and to explain to the voters why it's important. We go forward with this, I just have serious reservations about whether we're going to be successful and what that's going to mean for the next time that we need to go, because we'll have to go back for all of these things again. We can't get around it. And on that presumptive cancer issue, there was the closest thing to a proposal that came out of those two council items of special interest was a proposal to go to the state legislature and have them solve this problem. And there were council members who said we shouldn't solve it at the city level, that we should go solve it at the state level. Well, within a week, we had an administrative policy that was taking care of it at the Glendale level. And that was the right thing to do, but it's not enough. We need to move forward on this administrative policy and make it a council-adopted policy, one that won't change unless this council or a future council changes it. And I don't know what could be more supportive of public safety than that. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. With regard to presumptive cancer, the issue is settled. We have, as a city, resolved the problem, and we are the first city to have taken the initiative on this issue, hopefully followed by other cities. I don't care how it was done or why it was done, but it was done, and it satisfies the needs of the firefighters of our city. With regard to the bond election, I am very confident that this is an election that will appeal to the voters of our city. Streets and traffic congestion are very important, and one of the complaints that we receive on a regular basis is traffic. So anything that will help to alleviate traffic, as this bond issue will do, is important to the voters. Public safety has always been a priority for the citizens of Glendale. They want to be assured that they live in safe neighborhoods by knowing that we can fully fund the activities of the police departments and fire departments. We know that we confidently can continue to do so. I have every confidence that the bonds will be passed, and I would hope that this council would adopt that position, the entire council. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm not going to make any comments at this point. We have one speaker tonight. That's Mr. Deibler. Sir, if you'll work your way up here. You know the drill. State your name, city you live in. You have 3 minutes. What's that? I can't hear what you're saying.
Hi, my name is James Deibler. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm here today to discuss the homeless problem. 3 years ago, Maricopa County started facing a huge homeless problem for the first time. Currently, homeless people living in the Phoenix metropolitan area were left without a place to stay. The divide between shelter and unshelter continue to be a problem for the city of Glendale and the state of Arizona. The experience of surviving homelessness are as devastating as the people themselves. In Maricopa County, 56 of the homeless population is unsheltered, including people living on the streets in their automobile or in some other habitation unfit for people to live. Today, homeless veterans face a similar problem. Homeless veterans suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety disorder, physical disability, mental illness, substance abuse, joblessness, and lack of affordable housing. We need to help homeless veterans get back on their feet. Glendale Stand Up for Veterans and U.S. Vets is a good start for people to end homelessness in this country. Thank you for your time and attention to these important matters.
Thank you, James. With that said, Mr. Phelps, I never did hear what you were saying. Nothing? Okay. With that said, there being no further business before the council tonight, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. If there's no objection from the council, we're adjourned.